For the technical presentation, my topic is on video games, and this is in the 7th chapter of our book, and the title of that little subsection is Video Games, the Ultimate Convergence Machine. So what I'm talking about when I mean video games is I'm talking about mostly Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, and how these consoles and these console creators are the epitome of convergence, portability, and personalization. The first area I'm going to talk about is convergence. And the definition of convergence is the combining of several industries, computers, communications, consumer electronics, entertainment, and mass media through various devices that exchange data in digital form. So when talking about Microsoft as an example of convergence, I'm just going to give a brief history of what Microsoft did before video games and how they got into video games. So Microsoft is a computer company, and in 2001, Microsoft created Microsoft Game Studios in conjunction with the release of the first Xbox. And Microsoft's jump to the gaming industry is a perfect example of convergence because this company was a computer company before, and when they created the Xbox, they stepped into a world of social media and entertainment, and they paved the way for the popularity of online console gaming through Xbox Live, and also contributed to how often we now use software updates for games and the like. Now, Sony is also a great example of convergence because they are an entertainment-focused company, and they have their hands in a lot of pots, and that includes music, games, movies, finance. And as far as games are concerned, the North American division of Sony Computer Entertainment America was founded in 1994, and the PlayStation was introduced in 1995. And in 1997, the PlayStation Underground was released, and that's a magazine similar to Nintendo Power that had to do with PlayStation games. And in 2000, the PlayStation 2 was released. And to this day, 1 in 3 homes across the US has a PlayStation 2 inside it. Now, Nintendo actually has an interesting history. In 1889, Nintendo started as a Japanese card-making company. And in 1963, that's when Nintendo began making games in addition to playing cards. And this isn't exactly video games just yet, this is more plastics and electronics. And in 1970, Nintendo actually began incorporating electronic technology into their products. And 1980 was a big year for Nintendo, who created the Game & Watch product line that year. And that was the first portable LCD video game with a microprocessor ever released. And Donkey Kong was also released for arcades in that same year. And while Nintendo was creating games at this time, they didn't start creating their own systems until around 1994. And that's when the VS system and the Famicom system, which was later renamed the NES system, were both released. Now, the next area that I'm going to talk about is portability. And the definition of portability is a device that is small, lightweight, and easy to carry. So first, let's talk about Microsoft in this area. Microsoft doesn't have any handheld systems per se, but they do work with developing games for Windows phones, which is more of a recent development. But as far as the portability of the Xbox itself, over the years the Xbox has been streamlined by just slimming down the shape, and the system is a lot less bulky than its original release. And cordless controllers have also been added, Wi-Fi has been added to the Xbox 360, and that was a second generation release. The first Xbox 360s did not have Wi-Fi connectivity. It was an extra add-on. And they have also added in HDMI ports for newer TVs as well. Now, concerning Sony and portability, Sony actually does have two handheld consoles, and those would be the PSP, which stands for PlayStation Portable, and PS Vita, which is actually a newer version of the PSP that features wireless games and downloading games via the PlayStation Store rather than having discs. And in addition to those handheld systems, the consoles have also become slimmer, just like the Xbox. The PlayStations have actually gotten a little bigger, but they do a lot more, and the shape is more universal. It looks like one piece. And like Xbox and Microsoft, Sony also introduced Wi-Fi into the PS3, and that was actually released with the original PS3, unlike the original Xbox 360. So that was something you could do out of the box. And Sony has also developed wireless controllers and HDMI inputs for their devices as well. And last but not least is Nintendo, who would probably be, out of the three, the best example of portability in video game devices. Nintendo has released, as far as handhelds are concerned, the Game Boy Color, the Game Boy Advance, the Game Boy Advance SP, the Nintendo DS, the Nintendo DSi, and the Nintendo 3DS. And over time, these handhelds have gotten bigger screens, brighter screens. The button layout has changed. We've gone from the thumbstick to having a control stick as well. And they have also added in Wi-Fi connectivity to those handheld devices. And as far as the consoles are concerned, Nintendo has released the NES, the Super NES, Nintendo 64, GameCube, Wii, and Wii U. And like the other companies, these consoles have also gotten lighter and easier to transport over time. The last area that I'm going to be talking about is personalization. And the definition of personalization is personal or tailored experiences for each user. And an example of these experiences would be downloading a personalized library of music, creating a list of favorites or bookmarks, or personal projects. And my first example in this area that we're going to talk about is Microsoft. And one of Microsoft's best examples of personalization would be the Xbox dashboard and Xbox Live. And for those of you who don't know what Xbox Live is, Xbox Live is an online gaming system that allows users to play games and befriend or speak to other Xbox users around the globe. And when using the Xbox dashboard and Xbox Live, users have their own accounts and can customize an avatar. They can also customize the dashboard display. And every user has custom scores. This can be achievement points on doing things in specific games or playing these games online. It covers a couple of different areas. And users are also able to download and view various apps on their devices, such as Netflix, YouTube, ESPN, HBO, and users can also download indie or lesser-known games or retro games via Xbox Live Marketplace. And the Xbox itself also plays DVDs, so it can be used in a home media or entertainment center as well. Now, when talking about the personalization of Sony products, it's very similar to what Microsoft offers. So Sony also has a dashboard for their systems as well. and an online store called the PlayStation Store, and there's also a social aspect of that where you can create avatars and socialize with other people. I would say that it's not as popular as Xbox Live, but it is a little bit more realistic and does offer some different ways of exploring social interactions. And the PS3 itself also plays Blu-ray DVDs, which the Xbox does not. So the console can be used as a home media station as well. Similarly to both Microsoft and Sony, Nintendo also offers those aspects of personalization, and they have their own online store called the Nintendo Shop. And this is where older games can be bought, independently developed games, and you can also access Wi-Fi sharing, and this is usually more through the handheld systems than the Wii itself. But this is where you can communicate with friends or share download codes or play games with friends or make trades online. A lot of newer games offer these experiences. A good example of personalization would be one of the newer Pokemon games. This could be X or Y. And users create a character and use their Nintendo username with this game. And if the device itself is connected to Wi-Fi, trainers or users can trade Pokemon or trade data or experience with other players across the world. So after exploring all of these areas and these different companies, what I want to say in conclusion is that this is a very small aspect of what the video game industry or market concerns. These are just really the consoles and not even the games that are part of that industry, but just these consoles alone, and this is just a limited picture of the consoles that have been developed. All of these consoles have excellent examples of convergence, portability, and personalization, and these are three terms that we've really used throughout this class in order to describe the development of technology in our world. And I would say that even with this little glimpse, this area is a great example of how technology has developed in the last few decades and where we can see that going from here.